I call this meeting of the Marathon Aberdeen Board of Education to order. It's 7:02. Please stand for the pledge. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which the business affecting their interest is discussed or agreed upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Matawan-Aberdeen Regional School District Board of Education advertised this meeting on February 1st, 2019 in the Asbury Park Press and Star Ledger. This notice was sent to the municipal clerks of the Borough of Matawan, Township of Aberdeen, and the Matawan-Aberdeen Joint Free Public Library. The notice was also placed on the district's website. Can you please take roll call?
Good evening. Start off with Mr. Ahern. Here. Mr. Brittenham. Dr. Laney. Here. Mr. Montone. Here. Ms. Moore. Here. Ms. Nappy.
Here.
Ms. Whalen.
Here.
Ms. Esposito. Ms. Friedman.
Here.
Thank you.
Right. We have the minutes of the regular action minutes from August 26th and executive session from August 26th. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Good. Yeah.
I think now's the time to use first exec. It is not listed on the agenda, but there is a need to have an executive session briefly. So I'd ask for a motion to move into executive. Be it resolved that a closed session be convened for the purpose of discussing privacy, personnel, and legal matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. Although the board cannot guarantee the length of the executive session, it is estimated to take approximately 45 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with business. And the issues to be discussed are personnel and privacy, and action may take place. May I have a motion to go into executive session? Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? We are now in executive session. I apologize for that. Oh, that's too loud. So we are now at the part of the agenda for the board president's report. It has been a couple of really high spots, I think, the last couple of weeks. I've had occasion to welcome parents to back to school night at MAMS both nights, Ravine, Cliffwood, at the high school here, and nothing makes me smile like watching little kids boss around their parents going, "Mommy, this is my room. I know how to get there. Don't worry, I'll tell you." The pride that you see in kids when they show their parents their schools it's all very exciting. Had an opportunity to go to the football game, and before I forget too, I know Ms. Moore, Mr. Montone, and I think Ms. Whalen were also at some back to school nights just welcoming parents in an effort for us to sort of be seen more around town. I had the opportunity to go to the football game, which was exciting. The band concert competition was amazing. I can't imagine how hard those kids work, our marching band and all the others that performed. The amount of, it took me years to figure out how to walk and chew gum, and these kids are playing tubas and jumping on trampolines. It blew my mind. So a lot of really amazing things that are going on at the school, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to address in terms of communication. There were a couple of times where we, as board members, are approached from the public about things that have arisen on Facebook. And I have not found a way, as a parent, as a school board member, to figure out how to really beg people to reach out to the principals of this district and ask them what's going on. And communication really between the parents and the schools, or parents in the district. Our administrators, they live in these schools 24/7, Monday through Friday, some on the weekends. Hi, Mr. Tyberzi, and Mr. Eiler, who I think spent most of the weekend here. And they know these schools better than some of us on the board because they are here all the time. And they have the information. And it is so important to have parents who are concerned reach out for their particular administrator in their school. I know this isn't the fullest of meetings, but I just implore people to try and reach out to their administrators more in their school and try and avoid Facebook, because there's a lot of needless aggravation that gets caused by misinformation, and it stinks when kids are upset, and it stinks when parents are upset, especially when it never needs to happen. So that's really my report on that end, but I get to now have the privilege of inducting our new student representative, which is Mr. Peters. Should we just get a certificate or something? Yes. Am I doing everything? Do I say my thing? Nothing? Mr. Peters, you want to come on up here? Oh, you want help coming on up here? So I hope the image, I'm not Mike, sorry. I'm not Mike, but I want to welcome you. You have a seat, you have a water. You have a mic. If you'd like to take your seat, Mr. Peters, welcome. On behalf of the board, I welcome you. And if you'd like to just give yourself a brief introduction so everybody else gets to meet you, that would be great. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the student body for choosing my colleague, Anthony Fosu, and I as the equitable leaders of the student population. Board President Freeman, Board of Education members, Superintendent Micah, Assistant Superintendents, and building principals, I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you to you as well. It is with great pleasure and appreciation that I accept the position of Student Body President and Board of Education Representative. With the acceptance of this position, I acknowledge that the duties before us are no elementary tasks, but rather tasks that require an enormous amount of effort and time in order to ensure the best possible results. We look forward to being in close partnership with the Administrative Board in order to achieve success in forwarding our district's agenda while also ensuring satisfactory student representation across the board. Through our vision, we plan to provide the student population of MRHS with a unique sense of unity while also acting as advocates of justice and equality. In doing so, we also plan to increase student participation in events and promote school spirit, thus building a home away from home for our students. Anthony and I are very fortunate for the opportunity to work as a team to create an unforgettable and lasting impact on the student body. And recognize how much accountability and responsibility is required by positions of this stature. We wholeheartedly vow to forward the agenda of our remarkable district and are elated to see what this school year has in store for us. To us, Madawan is the pinnacle of excellence, and we'd like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for allowing us to be such an important part of the district team.
So now we would normally go to Dr. Micah's report. He is not here, so I gather that is a me thing. So Mr. Eiler, you are next for high school recognitions.
Good evening, everybody. Members of the Board of Education, Central Administration, we took a little bit of a different twist this year on how we wanted to highlight a activity that has been at Matawan Regional High School for some time now. We have with us 5 extremely exhausted people who have just returned from their retreat this weekend to Blairstown. They are part of our civic leadership group. So fresh off the bus, their new advisor, brand new for the 2019-2020 school year, Miss Michelle O'Neill, would like to give you some highlights of what happened this weekend, as well as some ideas and some thoughts about the way in which we are going to be working with the civic leaders in this new school year. So without further ado, I turn it over to Miss O'Neill.
Thank you so much, Mr. Eiler. So I just took over the program this year, and we really hit the ground running. From June of last year, after finals, we met with the incoming Civic 2 class, and they stayed after finals one day, and we talked about all the work we were going to do over the summer, from designing our t-shirts that we were going to have, which the students did and took on themselves, to our freshman lessons, because we go 1 time a month into the world history classes as role models and peers to give lessons to the freshman class. We met in August before freshman orientation to plan out how we were going to give tours of the school, and they actually gave up days in August for freshman orientation and came in and circled around. So our civic leadership retreat, which I've never been on before, we just came off of, and it was amazing. We did so many events. We'll show you pictures in a couple minutes, but we did canoeing, we did team building exercises. The kids all said that they felt like a family when we were sitting around the campfire and talking about how much the relationships actually meant to them. So for me, for the civic leaders, I'm going to call up my civic leaders because they are the students, they're the lifeblood, this is their program, and I want them to talk about it as we go through the pictures and talk about the events that we did. And President Peters is part of us, but due to medical conditions did not come with us, but he was there in spirit this weekend when we were there. So do you guys want to come up? And Mr. Eiler, can we pull up the slideshow?
Yeah, so my name's Joe Bedios, Civic Leader 2019. Yeah, but starting off the retreat was a really great experience and something that truly was like very life-changing in my eyes. Like, to start off, the staff was so welcoming there and it made us feel like we were at home. Made us feel like we were at home. And so then it started off with a couple activities that required team building and communication. And it really felt like we were just establishing more closer relationships and bonds that, I can't see my notes, made us have closer bonds. And one person, when we sat around the bonfire, said that people he wouldn't talk to start off the year, like in summer, he wouldn't even go up to them, and now like he would go up to them and tell them like some of his deepest, darkest secrets that you can't even imagine. And so that was something that really is cool to me because like we're valuing new friendships, and to me like what I took away is that teamwork truly does make dream work. That's a nice cliche, but I also feel that the people in Civic aren't just as my peers, but now I consider them my family, as cliche as that sounds too. I genuinely feel that I can trust each and every person in Civic, and I believe that they all feel the same way. Thank you guys around me. And this trip not only helped ourselves become leaders, but also created a strong bond and made us all feel like family.
I personally had an amazing time on this trip. Coming in, not a lot of the civic leaders I would have considered my close friends, so I was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone by talking to newer people, and I could easily say by the end of the trip we all formed a bond that I think is going to help us for the rest of the year. We did some amazing activities, team building activities. We were able to trust one another, communicate to one another. We discussed different ways to be leaders, different ways of communication. Sometimes it's not always verbal communication, but physical, and how sometimes to be a leader, it's through your actions and not your words. So it was an amazing experience, and I learned so much, not only from the staff, but from my peers and other civic leaders. And I just want to thank Miss O'Neill because she's been doing the most amazing job as our new, I guess, leader. I don't know what she would be called. Advisor. So yes. So thank you.
So before this trip, we in class had a project where we had to talk to each other and reveal things about ourselves that we wouldn't usually tell people, that we kind of keep inside. And throughout the trip, we really worked on building trust within each other. And like Joe and Emma said, we really became a family and worked on just having like a sense of trust between like so many people that we normally wouldn't talk to. And I think as a whole, we can agree that we would like to translate that sense of trust and that sense of a family to our fellow peers within the school. And I think that's really something that we want to focus on throughout the year. And this trip really helped us realize that. I just think it was crazy how in a day and a half we all bonded so well and learned so much about each other and just became such good friends and so trusting of each other. It was really great.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill, and our newest civic leaders. And once again, I just want to thank the Board of Education, Central Administration, for your support of this program and for your support of being able to send the students on the retreat. These students are very much at the epicenter of what we're trying to do at Mattawan Regional High School, and I am incredibly excited for all of the things that Ms. O'Neill has planned for them, not only for this year, but for years to come. Thank you.
So at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Farah to come up.
So I'm here this evening to recognize the Strathmore PTO. The Strathmore PTO is one of the hardest working PTOs I've had the privilege to work with. These dedicated parents volunteer their time to support the students, staff, and families of Strathmore Elementary School. The PTO creates fun learning nights for the students after school hours, bring in wonderful assemblies and authors to support our curriculum, fund the busing for school trips, donate supplies for students and staff, and have most recently initiated a grant program in which Strathmore staff can pitch a creative idea for a new project in their classroom or for the school. The Strathmore PTO has given the students the opportunity to build and experience things that just can't be supported and supplied through the regular school budget. We are here tonight to recognize the Strathmore PTO for their most generous donation of $12,278.75 to purchase a brand new, much needed projector system for the Strathmore cafeteria. The students of Strathmore Elementary School will benefit from this state-of-the-art technology for many years to come. As principal of Strathmore Elementary, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mrs. Pell, please come up.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we present you with a certificate in recognition of your donation and the amazing work that you do. I know as a parent it is invaluable to have a very strong PTO. My kids were lucky enough to have a strong PTO at Strathmore, so I can only imagine that how lucky the kids are currently. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Liebman, I believe you have the HIB self-assessment and grade report for 2018-19.
Yes, good evening. So each year the district is required to complete an HIB school self-assessment for determining grades. And this is outlined in the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. So this is the district and school grade report for the school year 2018-2019. The way the process works, each school location takes time to reflect on the previous year in terms of HIB activity and scores itself in 8 core elements. Those elements include things like HIB programs, training, policy, curriculum, investigations, and reporting. So each school goes through the process of compiling the data, and as the data is compiled and it's then shared with me as the anti-bullying district coordinator, then we generate a report. So for the 18-19 school year, the overall score was a 69 out of 78. That's important to remember. It's not out of 100 points, it's out of 78 points. So it's a score of 69 out of 78. If you were to convert this, if you were in school and you took a quiz, it would be getting a grade of a B. So this is a draft. It's then shared with the Department of Education, and then final scores are sent back to the district in early spring, and that's when they are then shared with the public, and then they are published at that point. So that concludes the report, and I wanted to share it during the superintendent's report because it will show up on the agenda this evening as a resolution. And so we have some new board members. I wanted to take a minute to kind of share what that really is about, so that way you have an understanding when we get to it later on in the personnel agenda. That's it. Thank you, Mrs. Friedman.
Thank you. And Mr. Peters, how's school going?
It's going good.
Kids are happy?
Yeah, kids are very happy.
All right.
We've implemented a new Battle of the Classes program where we, instead of having 1 week of Battle of the Classes, we actually decided to have the event span throughout the year. And in doing that, we've culminated more student participation in these events and ultimately creating a larger level of school spirit.
That sounds awesome. I'm glad I asked. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Bombardier, we have curriculum and instruction.
Okay, good evening. Beginning with Part A, travel on curriculum and instruction. We have 6 staff members attending the Central Jersey Consortium for Excellence in Equity, Bias, and Inequity in Education at no cost. 1 staff member attending the New Jersey State Bar Foundation School Climate Team Workshop at no cost. 1 high school AP attending the Title IV Coordinator Boot Camp. 1 high school AP attending the FEA-NJ PSA Fall Conference. 2 staff members attending the Student Assistance Professionals County meetings at no cost. That's a series of 7 workshops. 1 staff member attending the New Jersey Council for Social Studies workshop. 3 staff members attending the New Jersey Science Convention, and our middle school will be presenting once again this year at the Science Convention. 7 staff members attending the Regional Professional Development Academy, and that is at no cost through our district membership to this PD Academy. 3 staff members attending the New Jersey State Bar Foundation Middle School, High School Conflict Resolution Workshop at no cost. And 1 staff member attending the NJASA Focus Discussions Workshop. That's all for Part A, travel. Moving on to Part B of curriculum and instruction, items 1 through 4 remain unchanged from the COW. Item number 5 is the first change you'll see in red, and we are asking the board to approve the following change of hours for the preschool classes and locations for the 1920 school year. Initially, the student dismissal was 2:45. This has been changed to 2:35, so we're looking for the board to approve that official student dismissal time for the preschool. Item number 6 is asking the board to approve the amended 2019-2020 school calendar. We are looking to build in 2 half-days of professional development, October 25th and January 17th, which should be 2020, as half-days for students with staff PD taking place in the afternoon. Item number 7 is asking the board to approve and accept the donation in the amount of $750 from Linkit. Linkit is our data assessment and management system, using these funds towards food and soft drinks for district employees as part of the October 14th in-service day. Item number 8 is asking the board to approve the district's participation in the College Board Advanced Placement AP questionnaire. The rationale provides the information that we will glean from this voluntary survey. Item number 9 is asking the board to approve the district to host an EdTech Google Summit at Matawan Regional High School on a Saturday and a Sunday in January 2020. Right now we are looking at January 13th, January 12th and 13th. This would be a Saturday and a Sunday, and this would allow the district to tailor the professional development for this day. Our staff would be able to attend. This would be open to anyone in Monmouth and Ocean County. and it would be a good opportunity for our district with a focus on Google, as well as infuse topics on social emotional learning and equity and access. And that is at no cost to the district. Item number 10 is a revised resolution. We're asking the board to approve the subscription renewal for Unique Learning System, an online interactive standards-based curriculum designed for students with special needs in pre-K to 12 for the 1920 school year. Originally, on June 17th, we had approved Unique Learning in the amount of $10,000. We're asking the board to approve the revised amount of $10,841.68 special education account as listed. Item number 11 is asking the board to accept the Elementary Child Assault Prevention CAP Program grant for students in grades kindergarten and third grade in the amount of $2,956 for the 1920 school year. And that concludes curriculum instruction.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the curriculum and instruction agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Are there any comments or questions concerning the curriculum agenda? You okay? I saw the light on. Ms. Whalen? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay. With that, Ms. Perez, can you take us through special services?
Good evening, everyone. Under special services, changes begin under item number 2. In red for the board members, for the public, the Shore Center, 2 students attending the Shore Center, Rockbrook School, Harbor School, we're asking for board approval for the out-of-district placements for those students with extraordinary services for the 2019-20 school year. On page 2 of 2, the costs have been adjusted with the account numbers listed. Under item number 4, we're asking for board approval for the Shore Center. The cost is listed with the effective dates running from June 25th, 2019 to August 7th, 2019, so it's retro. Under item number 5, we're asking for board approval for bedside instruction for the following student with the costs and dates as listed. Under item number 6, we're asking for the following tuition and extraordinary services adjustment for the 2015-16 and 16-17 school years due to a recent audit. That concludes special services.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the special services agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Are there any questions or any discussion on special services agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Liebman, can you take us through personnel?
Yes, thank you again. We're actually going to begin with a walk-in item that's being passed down now. So personnel walk-in item, this is for action. The superintendent is recommending to the board to approve the following appointments. There is one name listed for the position of payroll coordinator located at central office with respective salary and reason as listed. So that's under appointments. To the regular agenda, under item A, resignations and retirements, there's one name listed. This is a resignation for an extracurricular activity. Item B, under leave of absence, the changes begin on the bottom of page 1 of 10 and continue on the top of page 2 of 10 with names, types of leaves, and respective dates, each listed accordingly. On page 2, item C, appointments, in addition to the walk-in, we have 4 names listed in red for their positions with respective salary, stipends, and effective dates. Item number 2, for the 2019-2020 school year, one name in red for a substitute bus driver. Item number 3, salary adjustments for the 2019-2020 school year, 3 names listed in red with their degree in salary and the change in step and salary. Item number 4, home instruction for the 2019-2020 school year. 1 additional student is listed with subjects and dates. This continues on the top of page 4. Item number 5, college student observers for the 2019-2020 school year. Students are listed with their universities and cooperating teachers and the subject areas that they'll be observing. Item 6, extracurricular activities for the 2019-2020 school year. Names in red fall under the hourly activities. Mr. Farrar, I'd like to point out under Physics Club, the advisor, the board may notice there's a blank there. The stipend is $1,320, and that is for the 2019-2020 school year. No change to item 7. Item 8, additional volunteers are listed for the 2019-2020 school year, both located at the middle school. Item number 9, staff array changes for the 2019-2020 school year. The changes begin on the bottom of page 6, and those changes continue on the top of page 7 of 10. On page 8 of 10, item number 10, for curriculum and instruction, we are asking that the board approve the following names for K3 Curriculum Committee Thought Partners. The names are listed in red. Item number 11, curriculum and instruction for the MOST program. We're asking that the board approve the names that are listed in red along with their respective positions. Item number 12 for curriculum and instruction. This is for Wilson reading, visualizing, and verbalizing programs. We're asking the board to approve the 2 names that are listed for after-school supplemental instruction. Item 13, we have mentors listed for the 2019-2020 school years. The mentor teachers are listed with their location. On page 10 of 10, item number 14, other, changes in red. B, 1 staff member listed for administrative leave with dates, retroactive. Item C, additional district translators for the 2019-2020 school year are listed. Item D, this is what I had addressed in the superintendent's report. The superintendent recommends the approval of the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or HIB self-assessment for the 18-19 school year. And item E, under curriculum and instruction for the 2019-2020 school year, personnel attachment number 1, this is approval of the federal title grants. That concludes the personnel agenda.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the personnel agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Are there any questions or comments concerning the personnel agenda? Not seeing any. Mr. Liebman, can you take us through policy?
Yes. Under policy, the superintendent recommends to the board for first reading, category bylaws, so policy 0169.02, board member use of social networks, again for first reading. That concludes the policy agenda.
Can I have a motion and a second to accept the policy agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions concerning policy? Ms. Whalen?
So the policy that is here on the agenda, is that something that we are going to, does anyone have any discussion about it? Because we are adding something to the existing policy.
If I may, just by way of background, the policy committee met again after our last discussion. We took a couple of emails and verbal feedback from different board members about their preferences as far as board members posting on social media. Everyone that we heard from wanted to limit the amount of posting on social media, or basically leave the policy as it is currently in our bylaws. However, after also getting Mrs. Weinkauf's instruction in the workshop that she provided to us, some of the committee members wanted to add this language that is included, which I think came from Mrs. Weinkauf's, advice that we should have public conversation, like at a meeting, about making such decisions. And oftentimes doing a consensus through email is not fully putting us in the most sunshine sort of out there for the public mode. And so some of the committee members wanted to include some language whereby the board would direct the board leadership to or not to make some sort of public statement on social media. So what you see in number 8 reflects the committee members' suggestions regarding that. And if anyone has any questions, I know Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Whalen and myself kind of crafted this language based on the committee's input.
Ms. Nappy, do you have the language for Mr. Rubin to view?
It's on the.
Because I don't have that in front of me.
Yes, it says it's in the policy in the folder. I can read it. Board leadership will not post on social media or issue a press release without the prior approval of majority of the board, as specifically indicated in a board motion at a regular board meeting. Pursuant to bylaw 0165, any such vote will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. In the event a post or press release is needed, any such communication must be done in consultation with the CSA. Meaning Chief School Administrator, sorry. Acronyms in education, I apologize. Chief School Administrator.
There's certainly nothing illegal about that language. I'm not sure that the law requires it to be that restrictive, but as a policy matter, if the board feels that's the way it would like to go, there's certainly nothing inappropriate about it.
So I have some concerns with the restrictive nature of it, given the times that the board has used social media. I can think of one time where there was an evacuation of one of the schools that I believe the CSA, Dr. Micah, had asked a board member to post information on Facebook so that parents could be in the way that they are most quickly advised of what was going on with their children. This would preclude, I think, emergency situations. I'm also concerned about the idea of not taking advantage of certain opportunities that the district may have, and the example that comes to my mind is during the Recovery High School celebration when the press and media were there and asked to interview myself and Ms. Perez, and I'm not sure if Ms. Esposito was also asked, and it restricts things like that. I'm concerned that it gives a lack of transparency to the public. I do agree that there are better ways to do the email consensus thing. I think that those need to be brainstormed. I'm also concerned that we have not yet discussed this or had the opportunity to really discuss it as a full board, as we've had a couple of people missing from each meeting. I had asked that the views of the board members be shared if they weren't here at the August 26th meeting. I know I had brought up a suggestion from Mr. Ahern about developing a President's Corner to put on, attached to either our Facebook page, as in the district, not the board, or to put on the district website that perhaps administrators could link to. But as I started tonight, communication, we've got some juggernauts that we need to find out how to untie to make the information flow correctly, accurately, and seamlessly. I do agree that it does need to be addressed, but I have concerns about the policy as it exists and the fact that we have not had a full board to really discuss it. What I would propose is doing a second first reading after we have a full board.
I think my only comment would be that that's the purpose of the first reading, to sort of discuss it. I'm open to feedback. It is unfortunate that we have a couple of people not here tonight, although generally speaking, we always have a couple of people not here. But I think if there's any concerns, this is definitely a time to talk about it, and we can chisel the wording if we need to. We did consider emergent situations, but we felt like any sort of emergency situation, communication is the purview of administration, and we felt like that would not be an issue. If in fact there was an emergency situation, the administration and/or possibly law enforcement are the ones to convey that information. I don't think that the wording of the policy prohibits a board person, a board leadership, or a board person from doing something at the direction of the superintendent. I think if the superintendent is directing it, that's a different matter altogether. And I think that this allows for a greater amount of transparency. I could see what you're saying about the interviews, but I don't think this covers interviews. I mean, an interview is an interview. A press release or a post on social media is the language that we restricted it to. But I don't know if Ms. Whalen, you want to weigh in, because this was definitely, something that you brought to our attention, and it was something that you were interested in. So if you want to weigh in here, I don't know if I'm hitting all the points that you had brought up.
Well, my concern was that the transparency of having the votes, through an email to get the consensus for the board leadership to be allowed to post. I felt that was not something that was a fair process, or something that we wouldn't really know how the outcome came about. Not posting, I think, is the way to go. I feel that the administration should really be the only ones that would go on the social media, because they're the ones that ultimately make that decision. I don't think someone needs to speak to them. I've been trying to get a little bit more information through Ms. Weinkorf about what really would constitute an emergency, since she is the one that basically said totally stay away from a board member posting anything. I do agree what Ms. Nappy said, that if the CSA does ask the board president or leadership to communicate with the community, then that would be okay, because it is asked by the administration, but not for the board leadership to ask the administration if this is okay, and then to ultimately ask the board to give a consensus, because the consensus really is another way to say vote, and the vote really should be public. But I'm also open to hear any ideas of what might make this work for everyone to come to an agreement if we need to change the wording a little bit. But I think staying off social media would be the way to go.
What I would, again, suggest, or what I would now make a motion, would be to table this until the next meeting, in the hopes that we have a full board next time. I know that the 2 absent board members were unexpected, and they had hoped to both be able to be here, and were not able to come due to circumstances that they could not control. With that being said, I would make a motion to table the first reading, move the first reading to the next meeting. Is there a second? Which would be October 4th. 14th, sorry.
Could I ask something? So on October, whenever the next meeting is, when is it?
14th.
What happens if at that point we don't have a full board again? Right, oh, good, I'm sorry. I don't know.
As a point of reference, in order to have the discussion on tabling the motion, you need a second.
It wouldn't be tabled indefinitely. So is there a second? If not, then we can vote on the first reading. Okay, seeing no second. My understanding is we had asked that this policy the first read will be put up on as part of the agenda now?
So as part of the board's bylaw 0131, which is bylaws and policies, it does reference that a copy of the proposed draft will be made available to staff members and the public, and comment will be invited prior to the second or adoption of the policy.
Okay, are there any other, so this will be posted up with the meeting agenda in regular course. Are there any other comments? This policy will be posted as with part of the regular agenda, so that the public can then comment on it as to what they like, dislike, and then see what happens with that. Ferry, take us through finance and transportation.
Thank you. So we'll start off on page 1 of 3. Number 4 is the first new resolution. These are revised tuition rates for preschool as a result of the district not receiving the PEA funds, but as a result of us needing to kind of fill some of those seats. It takes into consideration both the regular tuition rate as well as the reduced tuition rate, which is 75% of the full tuition cost, subject to the students qualifying for the free and reduced meal process. Number 5, there's a slight revision to the resolution, and I apologize to one of the board members. I had asked a question via email to me as to the specific nature of the part in red. Basically what happens is when a district goes out for advertisement for an item or a scope of work, series of items, services, and on 2 occasions you advertise and you don't receive bids, then at that point the board can take action and allow the administration to negotiate for that specific service. The issue in question here has to do with athletic and field trips. We went out to bid twice. On the first round, we did get some takers on some of the work. On the second, we did not receive any bids on the balance. As a result of that, this would be the recommendation, is to obviously memorialize that we didn't receive bids for the second time, and then allow Ms. Kaiser and I to reach out to contractors to try to fill those gaps. Number 7 on page 3 of 3. This is incoming district students from a tuition standpoint. Number 8 is the acceptance of a donation for Keys Academy. This is outside of the normal Recovery High School grant that we received from the state. So the funds are not to be intermingled. They're to run separate of each other. And that concludes finance.
Can I have a motion and a second on the finance agenda?
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the finance agenda? I have one that I know was asked by a board member concerning the thespian organization. Even though it's not on the agenda, I know it was asked. That has been funded. Is that correct, Mr. Ferreira?
Yes, so there's a couple of different components. With reference to the regular general budget, the high school obviously submits their budget as part of the annual budget process, and in that situation, yes, the typical support that the group gets on an annual basis was continued and is expected to be continued going forward. In terms of kind of other things relative to funding sources and other kind of extracurricular fundraisers and that kind of stuff, I shared some of those comments with the board this afternoon as part of our regular kind of agenda review process.
Are there any other questions or comments concerning finance and transportation? Seeing none, we go to public comments on agenda items. Not seeing any. Mr. Ferrer, can you take us through action items?
Yes, thank you. So we'll start off with curriculum instruction. Mr. Ahern?
Yes.
Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Monzone?
Number 11, I'm going to abstain, and yes on the other one.
So yes on everything except on number 11, abstain. Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Special Services, Mr. Ahern?
Yes.
Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Monzone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Personnel with the walk-on item and the adjustment on the resolution per Mr. Liebman. Mr. Ahern?
Yes.
Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Monzone?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I went out of order there. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you. Policy, first reading. Mr. Ahern?
Yes.
Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Monzone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
No.
Finance, Mr. Ahern?
Abstain from number 6, yes on everything else.
Yes on everything, abstain on number 6. Thank you. Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Monzone?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have any unfinished business? I'm not seeing. Oh, we do. We had at the last meeting, we had tabled for this meeting the resolution regarding the Oprah request. It was tabled until today. I do have some concerns regarding that. So the resolution that is listed under unfinished business, be it resolved, the Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District Board of Education directs the board secretary to file a Freedom of Information / Open Public Records Act, otherwise known as Oprah, request with the state of New Jersey to recover applications that were deemed successful in the preschool expansion program. Do I have a motion to, I guess, accept this as the agenda for unfinished business? Is that proper? We're good? That's the agenda?
That's what's going to be occurring.
So, well, this is the request. My concerns is when you read the letter, and my understanding is that this is in process, it refers a process for the superintendent to go through to find out these answers and to find a way, specifically, I believe the letter said something to the effect of, please reach out to, I don't recall the name, it might have been Carrie Booker, from the Department of Education to find out how to make your application stronger. So there are pathways. My understanding is that Dr. Micah is following that process. My concern about filing an Oprah request right now is that, one, I don't see it would do any positive, and two, I'm concerned about causing agitation when we really don't need to, because we're following the process that was outlined. I don't know if Mr. Rubin maybe has anything else to possibly add on that in terms of possible confidential information.
Well, clearly the board is perfectly within its rights to file an Oprah request if this is information that you feel you need. I will say from past experience that there are times when the department sometimes feels they're being called on the carpet by a very public Oprah request, and you know, while in theory no one should ever be retaliated against for exercising a right they have a perfect right to do, such as requesting information through Oprah, it's for the board to decide whether they feel that will get in the way of something the superintendent maybe try to do under the radar and behind the scenes and perhaps more effectively, or whether this is information you feel you have no choice but to request in a very public way. Just understand that sometimes there can be a cost to that.
I think actually Mr. Ahern got my attention.
Okay.
So it's
There are
There are a number of regional meetings that are coming up in which central office staff will be meeting with Trenton people to go over the results of those applications, and meeting with Carrie Booker, myself, basically has said that you could call down to his office at any time and someone will actually answer your questions in terms of the reasons why you might not have received the funding. However, that's not what Dr. Delaney was talking about a few weeks ago. So I'm giving the floor back to Dr. Delaney.
Okay. I'll go along with whatever Jay wants to do. I don't know if you're speaking for Jay or for yourself, but the original argument was that something had been filed and we were waiting for an answer. And my opinion was we were never going to get an answer. So tell me, did we get an answer?
The short answer is I do not know. I believe that Dr. Micah had the conversation with Mr. Rubin regarding some of his concerns. So while I don't claim to be Dr. Micah, I think that the concerns that I have are consistent. I don't know if you want to add.
Well, I'm willing to let this go, but I want to know, did we get a response to our original request for those applications? Because that was the basis of not acting on it last time.
I don't know the answer to that question, but Dr. Mike on a phone call certainly would be able to answer that, I would think. It's a fair question.
Okay. Ms. Friedman? My question would just be, is there anyone here tonight that can speak to that? Ms. Perez, Mr. Ferreira, is anyone able to speak to the answer to the question that Dr. Delaney has?
Is there anyone, or we can table this till the next meeting? Ms. Perez?
So I can share that the Department of Education was responsive to sharing information regarding our application as far as with feedback. So in regards to the letter that Mrs. Freeman referred to, they are following through with advising and sharing where there were some improvements, but the letter clearly states that they did run out of funding, and that is what happened. So 50 applications were submitted, 28 were accepted, 5 were denied at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. I guess then my next question would be, Dr. Delaney, does that satisfy the question that you had, or were you looking to have additional information beyond just our application, i.e. other application information from other places?
Well, you know, I used to do that, and I could tear any application to pieces and hand it back to you. That's not a big deal. What I want to know is, did we get a response? And nobody seems to know the answer.
So what I would then move is to, again, despite Dr. Delaney's appropriate frustration with my soon-to-be motion, is to table it again. I know Dr. Micah had expected to be here and was not able to make it, so I would ask if I would make a motion to table this until October 14th? Till October 14th. And in the meantime, when you have lunch with him, Dr. Delaney, maybe you get the answer sooner rather than later. You can't, well, do we have to do the motion first?
It's a public issue. What I talked about with Jay at lunch is, I'm not going to relate to anybody.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that? I couldn't hear what was being said.
You know what? It's not worth repeating.
What?
It's not worth repeating.
Just a quick question. So we know that the funding ran out, and obviously our district did not get the funding. But now, from what Mr. Ahern said, could someone make that phone call to find out, you know, why? Because the question really that I thought Dr. Delaney was trying to find out was, you know, what did we do wrong on the application that made us not get the funding? So will that be the next step to maybe call up, like it was just mentioned, or is that not something that happens.
So I did speak to someone from the Department of Education, one of the reviewers, and she did share the feedback. I would like for Dr. Micah to be here to share the feedback with the full board and also Dr. Micah.
So I would ask for a second to the motion to table this for the next meeting, October 14th.
So moved.
Thank you.
Need a second.
No. First, second. So the motion is to table the resolution as read by Ms. Friedman until October 14th. Mr. Ahern?
Yes.
Dr. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Montone?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Nappy?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Thank you.
So is there any other unfinished business? Seeing none, is there any new business? And with that, is there any public comments on any items that are not on the agenda? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Okay. That being said, just stop saying that. That's not the cheat sheet. Be it resolved that a closed session be convened for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed, and personal matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. Although the board cannot guarantee it, the length of executive session is estimated to be approximately 15 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene, proceed with business. Action will not take place. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a second? All those in favor? We are now in executive session.